Thank you very much. I may have just a little bit to comment, but actually it's about program of a country which is not present here. So perhaps if we discuss, that program, perhaps a little digressing the theme of the session. And I'm sure during the course of question answers, we'll hear more from him about the Thai experience in blue economy and how it should develop further. But he actually made some very interesting points about interlinkages between international trade and sustainable development, and he gave some idea that I'm sure we can explore them during the question and answer session. Now, I have great pleasure inviting Mr. Rajiv Ranjan Chaturvedi, who is a visiting fellow in the Office of Executive Director, Executive Chairman of S. Radharatnam School of International Studies, RSIS, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and is expert in maritime security. Mr. Chaturvedi, you have 11 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Kumar. I express my sincere thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I am from international studies background, and so I'll bring a maritime security perspective of the blue economy. Since previous speaker has introduced dragon in the room, so I want to do a comparison also of visions of two leaders, great leaders in Asia, Prime Minister Modi and President Xi, how there is some elements of common elements between visions of two leaders. And then I will also summarize the broad picture, what are the key to cultivate the vision of blue economy, how we can do or develop a model of partnership. When we look at our political world, it extends only over the accessible space. Accessibility, therefore, is the determining factor. Areas to which men have no access do not have any political standing or problems. As with improved techniques, men got within their reach the reaches of the oceans, depth beyond territorial waters, the sovereignty and legislations of this abysmal space became a matter of concerns for political authorities. New partitions were legally established deep in the sea and in the ground beneath it. Thus, the politics of access has complicated the matter further. With the oceans becoming developmental space, we are witnessing profound changes towards a more planned economy in the oceans. The oceans are becoming areas of opportunities, growth, and development, as well as threatened and vulnerable space in need of protection. This dilemma, to some extent, has brought us all together to decipher the emerging concepts of blue economy. As a concept, blue economy endeavors to embrace the opportunities associated with the ocean, while acknowledging and attempting to address at least some of its threats. While there has been increasing interest in the concept of blue economy across the globe, there is no universally accepted definition of what blue economy is, as the previous speakers outlined various conceptual definitions and issues. Despite several commonalities of key components, the concept of blue economy is fluid and opaque. Ambiguity in definition also raises questions on the scope of blue economy. For example, does the blue economy incorporate coastal or deep sea environments, or both? Or how does the blue economy interact with land-based systems? Which industries or sectors can be considered to be a part of blue economy and which cannot? You heard from Professor Mohanty how Australia's and India's positions are different on a scope. So, what are the components of blue economy? As it was highlighted by previous speakers, I will just make it mainly three broad categories, which is ecosystem resilience, ecosystem sustainability, and community engagement. So, as part of blue economy, we are trying to maintain ecosystem integrity, including biodiversity beyond national jurisdictions, restore the damaged ecosystem, and also to continue and supply our food security. As part of sustainability, to develop a sustainable model of revenue generation, intra and intergenerational equity, and also recognition of diverse values in the Indian Ocean region and beyond that. And also through community engagement, how we can realize the vision of blue economy. So participatory and co-management approaches, and also focus on local ownership, local and scientific knowledge used to harness the blue economy vision, more awareness of cultural values and norms which are existing in the regions, and also gender equity. What are the things which will enable to do all these requirements? Institutional arrangements as well as technological capacity. As part of institutional arrangement, there is a need for integrated and cultural compatible regulatory and legislative regimes, multi-sector and multi-scalar collaboration, and well-defined resource rights and benefit sharing. Because we are not dealing just in our own territorial water, but it's going beyond that. Also, appropriate technology for production, monitoring, and surveillance, new and existing clean and energy efficient technologies, accessible database. Pre-lunch session we heard about different databases are being developed, and including Indian government is taking a lot of initiative to provide reliable data sources, and capacity to assess inter-sector trade-offs and cumulative impacts. So after discussing these different components of blue economy, let me move on to relationship between maritime security. What are the key elements which are important to realize this vision of blue economy? Both maritime security and the blue economy in common is a term which is widely used yet poorly defined. The modern day concept of maritime security and the blue economy both have their roots in two significant historical influences on the ocean governance. The first was the substantial expansion of maritime claims seawards that was codified through the negotiations and drafting of the UNCLOS in 1982, and the second was the broader sustainable development agenda derived from the 1987 Brundtland Report and 92 Rio Earth Summit. Maritime security has received growing attention due to the intensification of concerns over maritime terrorism since 2000, the rise of modern piracy off the coast of Somalia and elsewhere, maritime crimes such as human trafficking, and the increasing significance of blue economy and issues relating to maritime environmental protection and resource management. The key objective of the maritime security are to preserve the freedom of the seas, facilitating and defending commerce and trade, and maintaining good governance at sea. Therefore, the role of maritime security agencies are critical for the development of blue economy. Beyond national and international security, maritime security agencies ensure maritime safety, that is, addressing threats to ships and maritime installations and assets, including responding to maritime disaster and accidents at sea, and participating in search and rescue activities. The agencies also safeguard economic development by enforcing laws and regulations in relation to resource use in the oceans, including countering piracy and smuggling and providing a secure maritime environment which enables and supports economic development. They also help in human security in relation to ensuring food security and sustainable livelihood, with a particular focus on illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing and human trafficking. Thus, maritime security is contributing to blue economy activities in four categories. One, extraction of non-living resources, to harvesting of living resources, commerce and trade in and around the ocean, and ecosystem protection and management. Now, with this, I move on to a comparison between India's and Chinese maritime mantra. So what is India's maritime mantra? We heard from Mr. Panda and other speakers about it. So I'm not going into detail, but just to want to highlight that when Prime Minister Modi highlighted his vision of blue economy, he emphasized that about common maritime home. So India's approach, he is underlining that it's more inclusive approach, and part of his vision India's approach is having five-fold cooperative strategy to manage Indian Ocean and overall development of blue economy. The first and foremost is maritime security to safe, secure, and stable Indian Ocean region. Then it talks about deepening economic and security cooperation and cooperation with maritime neighbors. Also, the third point is collective action and cooperation as mantra. India will support efforts to strengthen regional mechanisms for maritime cooperation.
1 minute.
Very quickly, sir. I will take 2 minutes. Greater collaboration, and the last point, which is important, Modi highlighted that Indian Ocean is not India's ocean. There are other nations around the world with a strong interest, and that's why China is required. That's where Dragon comes in. So there are converging interests between, because of lack of time, I can't interest, but the point which is highlighted, China talks about a blue partnership where green development, ocean-based prosperity, maritime security, innovative growth, collaborative governance. And India talks about blue revolution, which is development of coastal and island territories, collaborative and consultative approach, sustainable tapping of oceanic resources, greater civil-military convergence over security issues, and Sagar. And between India and China, there are, when in 2015 Prime Minister Modi visited, they signed several MOUs, and out of that there are 14 MOUs which are related to development of blue economy or in that area. And recently India-China concluded second maritime dialogue, if I'm correct. So the main point of this whole dialogue is that there are three key points of the blue economy concept: thriving maritime economy, healthy ecosystem, and engaging with the sea. And to make all this, we need some enabler, which is maritime security, governance through coherent policy, planning and regulations, business development plan, research and innovation, education and awareness, capacity building, both hard and soft capacity building, and local, regional, and multilateral cooperation. With that, I end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi. I think it has been quite an interesting presentation. You talked about components of the blue economy and what the institutional enablers for that can be, the key elements of it, Prime Minister Modi's vision of common maritime home, and of course you talked about the key elements as to how the concept blue economy can be taken forward. We now invite Dr. Wu, who is Associate Professor at the Hanoi University of Natural Resource and Environment. He is an expert on environmental management of seas in East Asia, mangroves of the future, and also is a member of the UN group of experts for regular process of world ocean assessment, etc., reporting, etc. Dr. Wu, you have 11 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to present the blue economy development in Vietnam. And in fact, in Vietnam, the concept of blue economy just introduced, but we have converted a lot of works into blue economy, especially ocean-based economy. So the principle of blue economy in Vietnam include the social inclusion, creating jobs, poverty eradication, increase of the living standards, social equity, democracy and women's empowerment, and environmental sustainability, conservation, development of and efficient use of natural capital, reducing waste, reducing environmental risk and ecological scarcities, including risks due to natural and man-made hazards, and adaptation to climate change, and innovative, cleaner technology. And we have the following approaches: green jobs, poverty reduction, increasing living standards, social equity, ecosystem approach in economic development, rational and efficient use of natural resources, and protection of environment, reduce and better collection and treatment of waste, especially plastic waste, and resilient to stressors, especially natural and man-made hazards, and addressing climate change issues, managing carbon budget, including carbon storage and sequestration, ocean acidification, new and innovative technology, and governance and international cooperation. In fact, we have a system of laws and regulations, including many laws and the Prime Minister decisions as I listed in my presentation. And also, we have the ministry's circulars and provincial governance decisions for the blue economy development, especially the cities and provinces as the coast of Vietnam. And now I would like to present about the present status of blue economy in Vietnam. The first one, creating jobs. In fact, the job creating in the coast of Vietnam is much better than before. And we have create more jobs. And in Vietnam, as I say later, the artisanal fishing is not really sustainable because poor fishermen, they can use destructive fishing method.